Seems that because this is a memorial concert for Chester, we should at least start off with a sort of spiritual, and we'd like to do a tune called In Sweet By and By, and see how it goes from there, okay? our shirts off. We promised to keep our coats on. We're going to do an old blues. This is not strictly a blues in that it's a 12-bar blues like a lot of early rock was, but this is really a slow tune, which is probably called a blues, but it's just a slow tune. I'll shut up. I'll get a laugh. Actually, we had some very good wine. But this is a tune goes way back to the 1920s called the Careless Love Blues, or just Careless Love.
Careless, not careless, right?
Oh, careless, yeah, right. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. I'd like to introduce somebody who's going to tell you a little bit about music and also introduce Danny Barker. Actually, this is the first time I've ever met the gentleman, but I've enjoyed the fruits of his labours. He wrote a book about Jelly Roll Morton, which was one of the first so-called jazz books I ever wrote. And thankfully for an awful lot of us, he also recorded Jelly Roll Morton in the Smithsonian just before Jelly died, 1940. I think it was 40. And has done extensive research, I think, into folk and blues and the African roots of jazz and stuff. And he can probably tell you an awful lot more, so I'm going to shut up and introduce Alan Lomax. Yeah.
Whenever I hear New Orleans music, what I always think is, gee, if there is a heaven, and if there are pearly gates there, and if I get to go and I'm invited, that's the music I hope they're playing when I arrive. New Orleans jazz. It fell on everybody's ears that way. When the great composers of Ansermet and in France and Stravinsky, Russia heard jazz, they said this is the most remarkable composed music of its age. They were listening to improvised counterpoint, not only counterpoint in terms of harmony, but in terms of rhythm. It was the first music really to arrive at this peak, and it really took the world by storm. Another reason was that jazz, New Orleans jazz, the town that we're celebrating tonight, and the wonderful bassist that we're celebrating, Chester Zardis, along with his fellows, made a marriage of two enormous traditions, both very rich, of Africa and Europe. Chester Zardis was one of the principals in this. Before Chester Zardis and his teacher Marrero and his rival Pops Foster, the bass was a sort of a mournful instrument making bass notes in the back of orchestras. By the time Chester and his friends got through, it was dancing, it was spinning, it was chuckling, it was laughing, it was popping, it was crackling. It had become a strong drum. Now Chester grew up in this environment. He was a typical Creole. He was of Spanish blood. He was a little man, about 5 feet 3 or 4 inches, with jug ears and a charming smile, an elegant figure, and he was very fast. He was very fast with his feet, and he was a very fast runner, and he loved music. He resolved he was going to be a bass player. But he was afraid to show this to his mother because he was from a respectable Creole family. And so his mother was afraid that if he joined the street musicians and played in the nightclubs, he might get in trouble. And he said to me, I didn't want my mother to know, because she said that all the musicians were being killed, because at that time all the women was killing them. But I wanted to take a chance, because I don't mind dying for my bass. So I was scared to take my bass home, because my mama might get mad. So I hid it out in the dance hall where I was going to have my first date. And I sat in the back of the band where I could hide in case my mama came in. Well, she was upstairs with the other ladies cooking the supper. And when the music began, I began to play, and we were playing such hot music that my mama came out and looked at the band, and she saw me. And I looked down, and she said, I'm going to fix you, son. She pointed up her hand and said, I'm going to fix you. And I said, well, you may have to beat me, because I'm going to keep on playing my jazz. So we played 3 or 4 numbers after that. I went down in the kitchen, grabbed my mother around the neck, and I kissed her. And I said, Mom, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid that you don't want me to learn. But I want to learn music. But it'll kill you, she'd say. I say, Mom, I don't care if music kills me so long as I learn. It can kill me if they want to. I'm willing to die for my bass. I want to see if I can sing you a song about New Orleans. New Orleans, New Orleans, I'm heading back to New Orleans, where the wine comes on in rivers and the lonesome blues roll on. And the ball goes on from dark till dawn in the house of the rising sun. New Orleans, New Orleans, come on. I'm heading back, sing with me. I'm heading back to New Orleans. Now the only thing that a rounder wants is a suitcase and a trunk, and the only time he's satisfied is when he's on the drum. Everybody. New Orleans, New Orleans, I'm headed back to New Orleans once more. New Orleans, New I'm heading back to New Orleans.
seconds. We'd like to introduce, I believe I'm supposed to introduce. I'm going to introduce Danny Barker. Danny's a guitar player, banjo player, and actually he's been telling us stories that he probably can't tell you out here in the back room, but he's been around music since he was a child in New Orleans, and many members of his family, particularly the Barberin family, produced a lot of musicians who were named musicians in New Orleans and who left New Orleans, went to play New York, Chicago, played with bands that were famous bands in the days. Danny played with Cab Calloway. I guess he played with Cab Calloway when they had Dizzy Gillespie playing trumpet with him before Dizzy discovered bebop and went off on another road. But anyway, he can probably tell you some more himself. And, he's going to come out and play a couple of numbers on guitar and sing a couple of vocals, I believe. So I hope we have a microphone for him. I'll get the microphone while it goes up. And then we're going to play a couple of tunes with the band with him, take a break, and then see what the heck we can figure out for the second half.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Very encouraging. In a tight squeeze. Would you rather have me talk or sing? As they told you, I'm from New Orleans. Born and bred there. Raised there, trained there. Till the age of 20, I went to New York City. 1930 and stayed there 36 years and got educated. Call it streetwise. In New Orleans, I'm related to a family of jazz musicians, the Barberins. 52 jazz musicians interrelated in our family. Cousins, second cousin, third cousin, half brothers, half sisters, unknown sisters, unwed sisters, unwed brothers. Old folks will tell you, people you're acquainted to, you're not so sure, but they'll explain it to you. Always later. New Orleans is a 24-hour town. They do not have a curfew there.